In a galactic classroom filled with diverse alien species, boredom reigns as Professor Zilk Snack drones on about quarantine protocols for Deathworlds. Amid the monotony, the only human in the room, Dave, fights off an all-too-familiar tickle in his nose. Despite his desperate internal pleas, the sneeze erupts with the force of a supernova, sending the class into utter chaos. Terrified of the human's deadly biological weapon, the alien students panic, fearing for their lives. As Professor Zilk Snack struggles to maintain order, the misunderstanding spirals out of control, with the aliens now fearing the mysterious and even more deadly-sounding hiccups. Dave, caught in the middle of the chaos, tries to explain the harmless nature of sneezes and hiccups, but his words are lost in the sea of alien hysteria. Yet, as the panic subsides, curiosity takes over, and the students begin to ask questions, eager to learn more about the strange human biology. What starts as a terrifying misunderstanding turns into an informal symposium on human bodily functions, with Dave at the center of attention. By the end of the class, the aliens, once terrified of Earth's Deathworlder, are now excitedly planning hypothetical field trips to visit the not-so-scary planet, and Dave realizes that perhaps the galaxy isn't as advanced as everyone thought. An expression of appreciation, amusement, the professor finally said, "And I must admit, I am eager to see what the rest of your species might teach us." Dave grinned, feeling a mixture of pride and relief. It wasn't every day that a simple human could captivate a room full of aliens who had initially regarded him as little more than a curiosity. The panic, the chaos, all of it had faded away, replaced by genuine interest and a newfound respect for the seemingly mundane aspects of human life. "Well," Dave began, "if you think sneezing and hiccups are fascinating, wait until I tell you about yawning." The classroom erupted in a buzz of excitement. Tentacles waved, wings fluttered, and a symphony of alien sounds filled the room. Professor Zilk Snack clapped his tentacles together, signaling for quiet. "One thing at a time, Mr. Dave. Let's not overwhelm the class more than we already have." He winked, or at least did something that looked like a wink in his species' mannerisms. The day continued with Dave sharing more about human biology, each fact met with wide-eyed wonder, or the alien equivalent. It was clear that the more they learned, the more the fear and mistrust began to dissipate, replaced by curiosity and the beginnings of what might one day become genuine friendship. As the session drew to a close, Professor Zilk Snack finally called the class to order one last time. "Class, I believe we owe our human guest a round of thanks for his impromptu lesson today. It's not every day that we are given the opportunity to learn directly from a species so enigmatic." The room filled with an odd cacophony as the aliens offered their thanks in their own unique ways. Clicks, chirps, hums, and even a faint scent of a floral fragrance wafting from one of the gas cloud students. Dave stood, feeling more at ease than he had since arriving at the university. "Thank you, everyone. I didn't expect today to turn out this way, but I'm glad it did. Maybe next time, I can learn something from you all." Professor Zilk Snack nodded. "Indeed, Mr. Dave. I believe this is only the beginning of what will be a very enlightening cultural exchange." As Dave gathered his things and made his way out of the classroom, he couldn't help but smile. He had come to the Galactic University of Xenobiology to learn, to broaden his horizons, but today it taught him something far more valuable than any lecture ever could. Despite their differences, despite the fear and misunderstanding, it seemed that across the vastness of space, curiosity and the desire to connect were truly universal. And as he walked through the corridors of the university, past beings of all shapes and sizes, Dave felt a little more confident, a little more at home. After all, he might be a Deathworlder, but here, surrounded by creatures from every corner of the galaxy, he was just another student, and that, he thought, was a pretty good place to be. "You said." Dave's steps echoed softly through the vast corridors of the Galactic University of Xenobiology as he made his way toward the dormitory. The day had been a whirlwind, and he couldn't help but replay the events in his mind. The initial fear, the unexpected camaraderie, and the surprising ease with which he had connected with beings from worlds beyond his own. As he passed by other students, some floating in gelatinous bubbles, others scuttling on many legs or gliding gracefully on wings, Dave realized how much he had already learned just by being there. Each alien was a living testament to the incredible diversity of life in the universe, and yet, beneath the strange appearances and customs, there was something fundamentally relatable about them all. They were students just like him, trying to make sense of the universe, to find their place in it. He reached the door to his room, a modest space that had been adapted to suit his human needs, and entered. The familiar, slightly sterile scent of the university's air system greeted him, a reminder that even in this far-flung corner of the galaxy, some things were universal, like the need for clean air. Dropping his bag onto the bed, Dave sat down and let out a long sigh. The adrenaline that had carried him through the day was finally wearing off, leaving him feeling drained but content. He thought back to Professor Zilk's snack and the other students, how they had responded to his explanations with genuine interest. It was a stark contrast to the fear and suspicion he had initially felt. It gave him hope that perhaps in time, these beings would come to see humanity not as a threat, but as potential friends and allies. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts, signaling an incoming message on his communicator. He picked it up and saw that it was from the university's administration. Curious, he opened the message. "Mr. Dave," the message began, "we would like to commend you on your handling of today's unexpected situation. Your ability to engage with your fellow students in such a positive and educational manner has not gone unnoticed. As a result, we would like to formally invite you to participate in an upcoming symposium on interspecies communication and cultural exchange. Your unique perspective as a human student would be invaluable to the discussion." Dave blinked at the screen, taken aback by the offer. A symposium. Him? He wasn't sure he was qualified to speak at such an event, but the invitation was clear, and the opportunity was too significant to pass up. "Wow," he muttered to himself. "This is unexpected." The message continued, providing details about the symposium and the topics that would be covered. It was to be a gathering of scholars, diplomats, and students from across the galaxy, all coming together to discuss the challenges and opportunities of interspecies relations. The idea of standing before such an esteemed audience was daunting, but at the same time, Dave felt a spark of excitement. It was a chance to represent humanity, to show that they had more to offer than just the reputation of being from a deaf world. With a deep breath, Dave typed out his response, accepting the invitation. He knew it wouldn't be easy, and there would undoubtedly be challenges ahead, but today had shown him that he was capable of more than he had ever imagined. As he sent the message, Dave couldn't help but smile. The universe was vast and filled with the unknown, but that was what made it so fascinating. And he was ready to explore it, one step at a time, bridging the gaps between worlds, one sneeze or yawn at a time. The next few days were a blur of preparation and anticipation. Dave threw himself into research, learning as much as he could about the cultures and customs of the species that would be attending the symposium. He spent hours in the university's library, poring over texts and data files, absorbing information about communication styles, social norms, and the intricacies of interspecies diplomacy. The more he learned, the more he realized how much he didn't know, but instead of feeling overwhelmed, he felt invigorated. This was why he had come to the university in the first place, to learn, to grow, and to challenge himself in ways he had never thought possible. Finally, the day of the symposium arrived. The grand hall where the event was to be held was a marvel of alien architecture, with towering columns that seemed to shift and shimmer with every change in light, and a ceiling that depicted a swirling galaxy, complete with twinkling stars and distant nebulae. Representatives from dozens of species were present, each one more extraordinary than the last. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Dave took his place among the other speakers, feeling a mixture of nervousness and excitement. He glanced around the room, spotting familiar faces among the crowd. Professor Zilk's snack gave him a reassuring nod, and several of his classmates offered encouraging gestures. As the symposium began, each speaker took their turn at the podium, sharing insights and experiences from their respective worlds. The discussions ranged from the practical challenges of interspecies trade to the philosophical implications of meeting alien civilizations. There were moments of intense debate, but also of laughter and mutual understanding. Finally, it was Dave's turn. He stood up, his heart pounding in his chest, and made his way to the podium. As he looked out over the assembled beings, he felt a surge of determination. He might be just a student from Earth, but he had something to offer, a perspective that was uniquely human. "Thank you for this opportunity," Dave began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "I come from a world that many of you might consider harsh or even dangerous. But I'm here to tell you that Earth, like many of your worlds, is more than just its reputation. It's a place of incredible beauty, resilience, and diversity. And I believe that humanity, despite its flaws, has something valuable to contribute to the galaxy." He spoke of the lessons he had learned during his time at the university, about the importance of understanding and empathy, and how even the smallest gestures, like explaining a sneeze, could bridge the vastest of divides. He shared his hope that, through continued dialogue and cooperation, the different species of the galaxy could find common ground and work together for a better future. When he finished, the hall was silent for a moment, and then, slowly, the sound of applause began to fill the room. It started with a few scattered claps, but soon it grew into a thunderous ovation. Dave felt a wave of relief and pride wash over him. As he stepped down from the podium, Professor Zilk Snack approached him, his tentacles writhing with approval. "Well done, Mr. Dave. You've done your species proud." "Thank you, Professor," Dave replied, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. He knew that this was just the beginning, that there was still so much to learn and explore. But for the first time, he truly believed that he could make a difference, not just for himself, but for humanity as a whole. The symposium continued, and as Dave mingled with the other attendees, he found himself engaged in lively conversations, exchanging ideas and forming new friendships. The barriers that had once seemed so insurmountable now felt like opportunities for growth and connection. By the end of the day, as the attendees began to disperse, Dave stood outside the grand hall, looking up at the stars. The galaxy was vast, and the challenges ahead were great, but he felt ready to face them, armed with the knowledge and experience he had gained. He knew that there would be more obstacles to overcome, more misunderstandings to navigate, but he also knew that with patience, curiosity, and a little bit of humor, anything was possible. As he turned to head back to his dormitory, Dave felt a renewed sense of purpose. The journey ahead was uncertain, but that was what made it so exciting. After all, the universe was full of wonders waiting to be discovered, and he was just getting started. And with that thought, he walked into the night, ready to embrace whatever the future had in store. In the weeks that followed the symposium, Dave's life at the Galactic University of Xenobiology transformed in ways he hadn't anticipated. Word of his speech spread quickly, earning him a level of recognition that both surprised and humbled him. Where once he had been just another face in the crowd, he now found himself sought out by students and professors alike, all eager to engage with the human who had spoken so passionately about the potential for unity among the stars. His days became a whirlwind of activity. He was invited to participate in discussions and debates, his perspective as a human often adding a unique angle to the conversations. His classes took on a new dimension as well, with his fellow students showing a heightened interest in Earth and its inhabitants. They peppered him with questions about human history, culture, and even mundane details about life on Earth. Dave found himself becoming an unofficial ambassador for his species, a role he embraced with a sense of responsibility and pride. Despite the newfound attention, Dave remained grounded. He knew that there was still so much he didn't know, and he continued to approach each day with the same curiosity and eagerness to learn that had brought him to the university in the first place. He spent countless hours in the library, often losing himself in the wealth of knowledge available at his fingertips. The more he learned about the galaxy's myriad species, the more he realized how interconnected they all were, how despite their differences, they shared common challenges, hopes, and dreams. One evening, after a particularly intense study session, Dave found himself wandering the university grounds. The campus was quiet, the usual bustle of activity replaced by the peaceful stillness of the night. As he walked, he reflected on how far he had come since his arrival. The fear and uncertainty that had marked his first days had given way to confidence and a deep sense of belonging. The university, with all its strange and wonderful inhabitants, had become a second home to him. His thoughts were interrupted by the sound of footsteps behind him. He turned to see a familiar figure approaching, Professor Zilk Snack, his mentor and friend. The professor's tentacles curled and uncurled in a relaxed manner, a sign of his good mood. "Good evening, Mr. Dave," Zilk Snack greeted him with a nod. "I was hoping to find you here. How are you faring?" "Evening, Professor," Dave replied with a smile. "I'm doing well, just taking a moment to clear my head. There's been a lot to process lately." Zilk Snack chuckled softly, his eyes glinting in the dim light. "Indeed, you've had quite the experience. I must say, I'm impressed with how you've handled it all. Not many students would have navigated such a situation with the same grace and openness." "Thanks, Professor. I guess I've just been trying to take things one step at a time. There's still so much I don't know, but I'm enjoying the journey." "As you should," Zilk Snack said, his tone approving. "Learning is not a destination, but a path, and you're walking it admirably. But I didn't seek you out just to praise you. I wanted to discuss something important." Dave raised an eyebrow, curious. "What's on your mind?" The professor paused, as if considering his words carefully. "I've been thinking about your role here at the university, and more broadly within the galaxy. You've shown a remarkable ability to bridge the gap between species, to foster understanding where there was once ignorance. I believe that you're uniquely positioned to make a significant impact, not just here, but across the galaxy." Dave blinked, taken aback by the weight of the professor's words. "I'm not sure I understand, Professor. What are you suggesting?" Zilk Snack's tentacles stilled, his expression turning serious. "I'm suggesting that you consider a more active role in interspecies diplomacy. The galaxy is vast, and there are still many divides to be bridged, many conflicts to be resolved. You have a talent for connecting with others, for seeing beyond the surface differences to the shared humanity, or rather, sentience, within. With the right guidance and support, you could become a key figure in fostering peace and cooperation among the stars." Dave felt a mix of emotions: honor, excitement, and no small amount of trepidation. The idea of taking on such a role was daunting, to say the least. He had come to the university to learn, not to become a diplomat or a leader. But at the same time, the professor's words resonated with him. He had seen firsthand the power of communication and understanding, how a simple conversation could change minds and build bridges. "That's a lot to take in," Dave said slowly. "I'm not sure if I'm ready for something like that. I'm just a student." "True," Zilk Snack acknowledged. "But every great journey begins with a single step. You don't have to decide anything now. Take your time, think it over. But know that I, and others, see great potential in you. You have the ability to make a real difference, Dave, and I believe that when the time comes, you'll know the right path to take." Dave nodded, appreciating the professor's wisdom. "Thank you, Professor. I'll definitely think about it." "That's all I ask," Zilk Snack said with a gentle smile. "And remember, no matter what path you choose, you're not alone. You have friends and allies here who will support you, whatever you decide." With that, the professor gave Dave a final nod and turned to leave, his form blending into the shadows as he made his way back to the university's main building. Dave stood there for a long moment, gazing up at the stars. The galaxy was indeed vast, and the possibilities before him seemed endless. The thought of stepping into a larger role, of using what he had learned to help others, was both thrilling and terrifying. But deep down, he knew that the professor was right. He had come to the university to learn, and perhaps this was the next lesson. learning not just about the universe, but about his own potential within it. As he made his way back to his dormitory, Dave felt a renewed sense of purpose. He didn't have all the answers, and the path ahead was still uncertain, but he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that with every step he took, he was helping to shape the future of the galaxy, one connection at a time. Dave stood there for a long moment, gazing up at the stars. The galaxy was indeed vast, and the possibilities before him seemed endless. The thought of stepping into a larger role, of using what he had learned to help others, was both thrilling and terrifying. But deep down, he knew that the professor was right. He had come to the university to learn, and perhaps this was the next lesson, learning not just about the universe, but about his own potential within it. As he made his way back to his dormitory, Dave felt a renewed sense of purpose. He didn't have all the answers, and the path ahead was still uncertain, but he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, knowing that with every step he took, he was helping to shape the future of the galaxy, one connection at a time. Kozar nodded slowly. "It's true that you have a unique gift for connecting with others, Dave. You see beyond the surface, to the heart of what makes us all sentient beings. But it's important to remember that you don't have to walk this path alone. You have allies, friends who will support you no matter what you choose. And you're still a student. You don't have to have all the answers right now." Dave appreciated Kozar's words of wisdom. "You're right, Kozar. I guess I've been putting too much pressure on myself to make a decision right away. Maybe I need to take a step back and focus on what I'm here to do, learn. The rest will come in time." Kozar's tongue flicked out again in what Dave had come to recognize as a gesture of approval. "A wise choice, my friend. The galaxy is vast, and there will be plenty of opportunities to make a difference. For now, focus on your studies and let the future unfold as it will." The conversation with Kozar helped Dave regain some perspective. He realized that he didn't have to rush into anything. The opportunity to play a larger role in the galaxy would still be there when he was ready. For now, he needed to continue his education, to soak up as much knowledge and experience as he could. The more he learned, the better prepared he would be for whatever path he ultimately chose. In the weeks that followed, Dave threw himself back into his studies with renewed vigor. He attended lectures, participated in discussions, and continued to engage with students and faculty from all corners of the galaxy. He found himself growing more confident, more comfortable in his role as both a student and a representative of humanity. He still thought about Professor Zilk-Snack's suggestion from time to time, but he no longer felt the same pressure to make a decision right away. Instead, he focused on the present, trusting that the future would reveal itself in due course. As the semester drew to a close, Dave found himself reflecting on how much he had grown since arriving at the university. He had come here with a thirst for knowledge, but he had gained so much more than that. He had learned the importance of empathy, the power of communication, and the value of understanding. He had made friends from across the galaxy and had come to see the universe not as a collection of disparate species, but as a tapestry of interconnected lives and stories. And as he looked ahead to the next chapter of his journey, Dave knew that whatever path he chose, he would be ready to face it with confidence and a deep sense of purpose. The galaxy was vast, and there was still so much to explore, to learn, and to do. But for now, he was content to continue his studies, to grow and evolve, and to trust that when the time was right, he would find his place among the stars. With a sense of peace, Dave closed the book he had been reading and made his way out of the library, the future wide open before him. Dave walked through the towering archways of the university's central courtyard, the sky above painted in hues of purple and gold as the day transitioned into evening. The bustling energy of students and faculty around him had become a familiar backdrop, one that now felt like home. As he moved through the crowd, he reflected on how much his perspective had changed since he first arrived. The vastness of the galaxy no longer felt overwhelming. Instead, it was a source of endless possibility. He approached the edge of the courtyard, where the view opened up to the expansive cityscape beyond. The buildings stretched high into the sky, their architecture a blend of countless species styles, a testament to the diversity and unity of the university. It was here, at this vantage point, that Dave often found himself contemplating the future. Tonight, however, his thoughts were different. The uncertainty that had once plagued him had given way to a quiet confidence. He knew that he still had much to learn, but he also understood that growth was a lifelong journey. The pressure to make immediate decisions about his future had lessened, replaced by a trust in the process of discovery. As he gazed out at the city, the soft hum of activity around him, Dave felt a presence beside him. Turning, he saw Professor Zilk Snack standing there, his tall, willowy form silhouetted against the fading light. The professor's face, always a blend of curiosity and wisdom, bore a gentle smile. "Enjoying the view?" the professor asked, his voice carrying a note of warmth. Dave nodded, returning the smile. "It's become one of my favorite spots. It helps me think, to put things in perspective." Professor Zilk Snack joined him at the railing, looking out over the city. "It's important to have a place of reflection, especially when the path ahead is uncertain. I've noticed a change in you recently, Dave. You seem more at ease." "I am," Dave admitted. "I've realized that I don't have to figure everything out right away. There's time to learn, to grow, and to find my place. I'm not rushing into anything anymore. I'm just taking it all in." The professor nodded, a look of approval in his eyes. "That's a wise approach. The galaxy is full of opportunities, and sometimes the best course of action is to allow them to come to you, rather than chasing them down. You've already shown great potential, Dave. Whatever you choose to do, I have no doubt you'll make a meaningful impact." Dave felt a sense of gratitude toward the professor. "Thank you, Professor. Your guidance has meant a lot to me. I wouldn't have gotten this far without your support." Professor Zilk Snack placed a hand on Dave's shoulder, a rare gesture of affection from the usually reserved alien. "You've earned every step of your journey, Dave. Remember, the most important lessons often come from within. Trust yourself and trust the connections you've made here. They will serve you well, no matter where your path leads." Dave nodded, absorbing the professor's words. As the two of them stood there, watching the last rays of sunlight dip below the horizon, Dave felt a sense of peace settle over him. The future was still full of unknowns, but he no longer feared it. Instead, he welcomed it with open arms, ready to face whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead. The sky above darkened, stars beginning to twinkle into view, each one a distant world, a new possibility. Dave took a deep breath, feeling the cool night air fill his lungs. He knew that his journey was far from over. There were still countless adventures to be had, lessons to be learned, and people to meet. But for the first time in a long while, he felt truly ready. With a final glance at the city, Dave turned to the professor and smiled. "I think I'll head back to my dorm. There's a lot to study, and I want to be prepared for whatever comes next." The professor returned the smile. "An excellent plan. Good night, Dave." "Good night, Professor," Dave replied. As he walked away from the courtyard, back towards the familiar halls of the university, Dave felt a sense of excitement for the future. The galaxy was vast, and his place within it was still unfolding. But he knew that he was on the right path, and that, no matter what, he would continue to grow, to learn, and to make a difference. And with that thought, he stepped confidently into the next chapter of his journey, ready for whatever the stars had in store.